Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be making not just one but four completely different projects all using the same stamp set. I'm excited to share four of my favorite techniques for working with background stamps and I can't wait to show you how versatile they can be. Well, before we dive in, I would really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Let's start by taking a closer look at the background stamp that I'll be using for today's card project. This is the Delicate Blossom stamp set by Simonsaysstamp, part of the fun new Happy Camper release. Now, I absolutely love the stamp set, and if you've seen my earlier videos, you might remember that this beautiful frame I created with it. That really shows how versatile the set is with endless possibilities and different designs. Now, along with that stunning 6 by 6 inch floral background, this also includes a bunch of beautiful, almost artistic sentiments. And well, there are coordinating dies available to cut out each of those sentiments, and I'll be sure to link them down in the description box below. Now, since I planned on creating four card projects, I started by trimming a piece of white cardstock into four panels. Now, each of these measures 4 by 5 and quarter, perfect for your standard A2 size card base. For all of the cards that we will be creating today, the first step will be exactly the same, stamping that gorgeous 6 by 6 inch floral background onto our white cardstock panels. I started with one panel and placed it onto my Ultranew stamp wheel, aligning it right in the center of that ultra sticky mat. This way, the stamp hangs off all four edges, ensuring none of those beautiful floral designs get cut off. Now, since I'll be using a mix of alcohol markers, ink blending, and some fun sprays on these florals, I decided to heat emboss the image. I stamped it with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a rich pigment ink that isn't alcohol friendly and can smudge during ink blending. By adding embossing powder on top of that VersaFine Onyx Black ink and heat setting it, the lines are sealed in, letting me add color freely without worrying about any of those smears or smudges. Now, before stamping, I did prep my cardstock with an anti-static powder tool so that the embossing powder sticks only to the stamped image. I can then stamp my image. Well, I did stamp this design twice to ensure a crisp, bold impression. Once I was done stamping, I carefully removed this panel from the ultra sticky mat. I used my Simon's Stamp Clear embossing powder. You could also opt for black embossing powder over the black ink, which I think would give the design extra shine and bold effect. Now, since the entire panel is covered with that gorgeous floral pattern, I used my reverse tweezers to hold one edge where there was no stamping. Then I generously sprinkled the embossing powder over the entire surface, making sure every stamped line was coated. After that, I tapped off the excess and funneled it back into the container and got ready to heat set this gorgeous image. Now, because we are heat embossing a full panel, the entire panel, it's very important to let your heat gun fully warm up before bringing it to the cardstock. While heating, keep the heat gun moving instead of holding it in one spot. This prevents the powder from over melting and also helps your panel from warping too much. Now, since this is a really big background, make sure that all of that gorgeous embossing powder is fully melted. You can tilt the panel under the light to check the hazy, grainy look will transform into a smooth, shiny finish as it heats up. That's your sign that the powder has completely melted and set into your paper. I prefer using a heavier weight cardstock when heat embossing a full background like this one, as it holds up better to the heat. Now, if your panel does warp, you can run it through your die cutting machine sandwiched between the plates or simply place it under a stack of heavy books to flatten it out. Off camera, I repeated the same process for all four panels we cut out at the start of the video. And I just love how beautifully they turned out. In fact, if you know someone who enjoys coloring, this set of four would be a perfect gift for them. You could easily create multiples of these stamped and heat embossed panels and gift them to anyone who loves coloring or even ink blending. Just like with any mass production card making process, I like to batch produce one element at a time. In this case, that was the stamped and heat embossed backgrounds. Now it's time to bring these panels to life by adding color and vibrancy. Let's jump into card number one, where we will be ink blending some gorgeous pinks and oranges onto our first panel. For this blend, I'm using cantaloupe, blush, carnation, and watermelon. Well, this is one of my all time favorite color combinations. I absolutely love pinks and oranges, and I have created so many different projects using this particular combination. Now, I placed my panel onto my Glassboard Studios magnetic glass mat, which is hands down my favorite surface for ink blending. The magnets hold everything in place. Also, cleaning up is such a breeze. I started with blush in the center of the panel, then moved to cantaloupe for the orange tones. I think blush is one of my favorite colors in all of the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink collection that I have. I absolutely love that transition and that smooth texture. It's more of an orange transitioning towards the pink. Well, I love the smooth transition between the blush and the cantaloupe. And to add more depth around the edges, I bought in another shade of orange, which is sherbet. Once I was happy with the top half, I flipped the panel to work on the pinks. Before starting, I cleaned off any of that leftover ink from my glass mat to avoid contaminating the pinks. I began with carnation just below the blush area, then blended in watermelon. To deepen the pinks even more, I finished with a darker shade, that is sweets. This embossed resist technique is one of my absolute favorites, and it's perfect for mass producing in all sorts of color combinations. Just like the pinks and oranges we used here, you could try an ombre effect by blending the same colors in varying intensity for a soft gradient, or go bold with a full rainbow palette. I'm so happy with how this panel turned out. Those shiny black florals really pop against the vibrant ink blended background. Tell me in the comments below, what's your favorite color combination for ink blending. Moving on to panel number two, I was still feeling inspired by that pink and orange combo, so I reached for my Tim Holtz Distress Spritz spray. Wow, that's definitely a tongue twister. Now, these sprays, I have two shades here. I have Spice Marmalade and Picked Raspberry. These sprays have a beautiful mix of pearlized pigments in a clear fluid base, which is perfect for porous surfaces like paper, canvas, and even wood. You can pair them with other distressed products for rich color and shine, but today I decided to keep it simple yet super shiny by spraying them directly over my heat embossed background. Now, before spraying, make sure to shake the bottles well, as the pigments tend to settle at the bottom. For a nice even mist of shimmer, spray from a slight distance. I placed my panel inside my splatter box to avoid getting ink all over my surface, then started with that gorgeous pink. Once I layered that pink over parts of the panel, I then applied the spice marmalade. I alternated between the pinks and the oranges until I was happy with the look on the panel. The colors here may not be as bold and vibrant as your regular distress sprays, but I absolutely love the soft luminous shine they added to my background. The best thing about using sprays on your projects is that there's really no right or wrong way of doing it. Sure, it can get a bit messy, but the results are always so worth it. I don't just love sprays for my backgrounds like these, they are also amazing when you use them with your stencils. You've probably seen me use my silver shimmer sprays too, adding that extra sparkle and shine to my card projects. Now, here's a side by side comparison of the pink and oranges while we ink blend and using these spritz sprays. You'll notice I used the same color combinations on both these panels but ended up with two completely different looks. While I let that panel dry, let's move on to panel number three. Now, for this one, we are doing some partial coloring, picking out just a few flowers from the floral background and coloring them all in a single hue. I'll be using my Ohuhu alcohol markers, but you could use colored pencils or even watercolors. If you choose watercolors, make sure to stamp and heat emboss your watercolor paper to protect the background. In the previous video where I created a frame using this gorgeous background stamp, I used pinks and oranges to watercolor the flowers and the result was absolutely stunning. This time I wanted to try something different, a vibrant blue, which isn't a color I usually reach out for when it comes to florals. I'm working with two shades here. I have a darker shade for the depth on the petals and the lighter one just for brightness. I wasn't too focused on shading or light direction or any technique here. I was just having fun experimenting with this gorgeous blue on my flowers. And honestly, I love how striking this blue looks on the flowers. It's inspired me to step away from my usual pinks and reds and try something less traditional colors when it comes to these beautiful floral projects. Please note that I colored a few of the flowers and left the rest of the image untouched. We are skipping coloring the leaves, flower centers, and remaining blooms. This partial coloring technique creates a stunning visual contrast that I hadn't tried before, and I absolutely love how it turned out. There's also something about the combination of the blue and that bright, vibrant, shiny black that makes this panel look absolutely striking. Of course, you could choose to add multiple colors to your flowers if you'd like, but here I wanted to keep it simple with a monochromatic look. This is again a design you could absolutely mass produce in a bunch of different colors. You could color in your flowers reds, oranges, pinks, yellows, or even greens. Well, yes, not the petals, but you could color just the leaves as well. That would be a totally different look. Moving on to the final cut front, we are doing partial coloring again, but this time we will mask off one part of the panel and color the other. Now I'm using the grids on my mat here just to make sure that my washi tape is completely aligned and in straight line and I get a perfect division on this panel. I'm using my Ohuhu alcohol markers and well, I bought back my traditional reds for the flowers, which I find absolutely stunning. Keep in mind, I'm coloring every bit of this section, not just the petals, leaves, and the flower centers, but also the negative spaces in the background. I fill the background with a very light shade of purple. Just like with the blue flowers, I used two different shades of reds and greens for my flowers and leaves. For the flower centers, I stuck with a single shade of yellow, and for the background, I have that light purple. Again, I was not too focused on any perfect techniques. I was just having fun with my colors. That's why I mentioned earlier in the video that this stamped and heat embossed background would make a perfect gift for anyone who loves coloring. We don't have any fancy techniques or methods here. It's just plain coloring, one or two shades of colors of your choice, but the point here is absolutely enjoying the process. You could definitely color the entire panel without any separation, but just like the previous panel where we partially colored those blue flowers, this technique was also new for me, masking off half the panel and coloring the other half. I was really excited to give this a try. After finishing the coloring, I carefully peeled away the washi tape and just look at how stunning it turned out. I love the bold, vibrant colors contrasted against the crisp black and white side of the panel. And with that, we've completed all four panels. I absolutely love how beautiful and unique each one turned out. We used the same exact stamp set and heat embossed the image on every panel, yet managed to create four completely different card fronts. Off camera, I went ahead and stamped my sentiments again from the Delicate Blossom stamp set and assembled all of the cards. In less than an hour, I ended up with four absolutely stunning finished cards that look so different from one another. For the last card, where we have the partially colored background, I added a strip of black cardstock to separate the colored section from the black and white part before placing my sentiment, and adhered that panel onto that gorgeous gray cardstock. For all of these cards, you'll see I kept the sentiment super simple and elegant and just let the background shine. I didn't add any sequin mix or splatters here. I just wanted my background to be the focus of my card. Now, for this card, I created a little square sentiment which says with thanks. Now, Simon Says Stamp does have coordinating dies for each of these sentiments, but I feel that a little circle or a sentiment strip would look absolutely gorgeous against that busy background. Now, here's the card where we use the Spritz spray. Just take a look at that absolutely gorgeous shine. I'm pretty sure this is not really showing off on camera, but in reality, it looks absolutely stunning. And I'm not sure if this is my favorite of all the front four cards that we created today, but take a look at that beautiful blended background. And I used a partial die cut circle, and with the sentiment "so happy for you," you could also add some sequin mixes on all of these card projects. But well, I will just let my background shine, and I absolutely love how these turned out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this video inspired you to try new techniques with your background stamps and see how versatile a single stamp set can be. Whether you're into bold colors, soft blends, or partial coloring, there's so many fun ways you could mix things up. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please give it a thumbs up. I will have all the products listed down in the description box below. Please know that all of those links will be affiliate links, and if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.